should call meeting to order. Can we please pause for a moment of silent prayer? Let everything that we do be for the boys and girls of this school district. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Chair will entertain a motion to approve this agenda. It's been motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Dr. Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good afternoon. First, we have on the agenda updates from chiefs. We have Dr. Hargis, Mr. Ward, and Ms. May. Yes.
Good evening. What page are the reports on? On page 4. So first we have, Carissa Mays. Ms. Mays, this is Ms. Milton talking. Could you just give me an example of a typical day for, PBIs?
A typical day for PBIS is I will be working with the MTSS coordinator to kind of see like where we stand with our numbers, observing those students who have those behavior interventions in place. We also have to take the time out to go and look at the different schools and what the PBI is looking like on their campuses. Some of them are doing incentives for the students, so I try to make sure that I'm in attendance if they, when they notify me of those days that they're going to put out those incentives. It also may be where I have to provide them some support because some of the schools have been having some issues with some students misbehaving and trying to see what kind of virtual supports that we can provide. And we've been trying to do those. We've been working with them on trying to see how they can monitor their behavior intervention goals, which are done through MTSS for some students, and some students is done through the SPED program, and how do we still report that data that's supported with mostly the schools are still supposed to be making sure that they set those expectations for those students and that they're monitoring and make sure that those are working. That when we notice that the expectations that we set forth aren't appropriate for the virtual setting, then we are taking the time to try to figure out how can we set expectations that will be appropriate for the school setting and yet still be able to get those students to perform the way that we want them to perform inside those classrooms. And for the students who are not meeting those behavior expectations, we're trying to establish programs to say, okay, how are we going to address them not when they don't meet it? And so what would that look like? Are we going to have virtual hangouts where they have to come to those certain rooms for behavior intervention services? Are we providing them social skills training? What is it that we're going to do? And it varies from campus to campus.
Ms. Abraham and I went on a school tour about a couple of weeks ago, and we saw at Threadgill Primary School that they had, I can't think what the name of it was, but it was a store that was set up for teachers, it was set up for the students, and I was just wondering, we didn't see anything in other schools. I'm not saying that they don't have them, we just did not see them, so I'm just saying, do you monitor that as well?
So the way that works is each school has a different bit of funding. And so at Threadgill Primary, their school had already kind of like, their teachers have taken upon themselves to do donations to create their stores. And so that was created at the manpower of that particular field. Now you do also have a store established over at Threadgill Elementary. You have one at Bankston Elementary. LaFleur Elementary was working on putting one together. get back on top of trying to get that done. The high school, not so much. With those, more so than anything, the incentives that the kids seem to be more into would be like, you know, receiving tickets to games and things of that nature. So this year they've been getting more so of those virtual bags, doing those drive-throughs, and getting the little bags or whatnot with different, you know, incentives inside those goodie bags and whatnot. They've been getting more so of those. But now you do have a couple of schools who have those, but we're working on trying to implement that especially inside of each one of your elementary schools. I'm not sure how effective it'll be at the high school level, or at the middle school it might be across, because you got the kids where, you know, those students are kind of like in the middle, where the store will still be effective, but for some of the students, but not for all. So it just kind of depends on the population of those particular schools.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Do I have one? Ms. Mays,
Hello,
how are you today?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. It says student discipline infractions are at a minimum. Can you discuss the term minimal?
Okay, so with the current setting, we have seen like a dramatic drop. Like currently, like we only have 3 schools who have reported discipline infractions when I go into the school incident and action count is in FAMS, and that's where I kind of pulled my information. I only had like 3 schools that showed it, and most of those were like students who had infractions with the juvenile detention center. And so it was only like maybe like 3 to 4 infractions that were noted. For the most part, I'm not seeing anything in the computer. Most of the issues that we're having as far as like, even though attendance, it is a behavior infraction, but it's being monitored through MTS6. So as far as like their infractions, they haven't had like any major infractions placed into the computer.
And I asked that.
Like last year, we would have had like, say for Threadgill, for example. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Keep going.
So like at Threadgill, for example, on last year, by this time of the year, I would have easily had right in maybe like 110, 120 behavior infractions that were placed in, and those behavior infractions can be anything from disorderly conduct inside the classrooms to school suspensions, things of that nature. Whereas right now, they only had 1 infraction.
Okay, so I do see a 3 bullets here that state all schools. And then I noticed this particular bullet, it just says student discipline. So I was wondering, when you say minimal, why did you use the term when there's no data present? And then, because I wanna know how you know they're minimal. And then it didn't state whether it was all 12 schools. So I'm just trying to get some clarity.
Okay. As far as me not saying anything on the 12 schools, I just didn't. I just referred that the attendance was at a minimum. And I stated minimum only because the infractions aren't at the same degree as they have been in the past.
Okay.
So it was a reduction in even though the data isn't there. I mean, I can't say that data isn't there because like I said, a few of the schools do have some data in the system. It's just that it's greatly reduced. If that makes sense.
So are you saying it's reduced because of COVID or because they're not in school? I mean, what's the reason?
To give a concrete reason, I can't give you concrete, but what I can say is that I do feel like us being out due to COVID, because the kids aren't having as many interactions during the course of the day, not face to face, where they can cause a lot of the disruptions. Because what we had in the past, most of our infractions have been like disturbances inside the classrooms, where the kids are disrupting the instruction that's been going forth, and that hasn't been reported as frequently as it has in the past. So I do think that the virtual setting is one of those reasons why we have it. Now, as we get ready to move forward into the next school year, I do feel like we have to prepare our staff for those disruption inside of those classrooms once again, because the kids have been at home so long, and it's gonna be, you know, they're gonna experience some transition, a transition period where they're gonna be. I think that there will be more incidents of disruptive behaviors because the kids aren't used to being in a structured environment like they were this year. Like they may have been able this year to they're on their computers and the teachers are monitoring them and making sure that they're doing their assignments and paying attention to the instruction that's going forth. But I'm still able to kind of like lean back in my chair how I want to versus in the class, the teachers expect you to sit up and sit in your desk appropriately, things of that nature. So I do expect us to have a few more incidents at the beginning of school.
Any other questions, board member?
One more question, Ms. Neal. I see here where you say that, of areas that need improvement, more consistent school level team meetings, and they're gonna be submitting tentative schedules. So will those, meetings happen before school, or before school has ended, or during the time block that we have, left?
Can you say that last part again?
Will those meetings take place before school is out?
Yeah, so we're already in the process of conducting those meetings. It's just that with the different schedules, like some of my locations, they're able to go forward with their meetings as they have planned out on their tentative schedules. However, sometimes the times that we predicted out, most of our meetings we try to do them at about 1:30 to 2 o'clock. But sometimes that interferes with the professional development that the district has for them, or professional development that their individual buildings may be having. And so if they have those kind of issues, I've asked them to just kind of, reschedule, and just so long as we still try to make sure that we have at least one meeting out of the course of the month.
Will you be monitoring those meetings?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board member? Thank you, Ms. May.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay Ward.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ward. I don't actually have any questions for you, Mr. Ward, but I would just like to say kudos to you and your staff. We've heard nothing but positive comments from Dr. Brown since you've been over there at CDC, so I would just like to say a job well done to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? No questions?
If I can make a statement, you don't have any questions.
Can you speak up, Mr. Ward? Can you speak up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to be screaming. I would like to say something if I may.
Yes, sir.
All right. I do want to give a lot of credit to our district staff and staff at the Juvenile Detention Center, because during this time we really did have some challenges that we had to overcome with the limited space that we have for classrooms and being able to provide instruction for the students. And we have found very innovative ways to make that happen. So the staff at the JDC, especially the director there, they're doing a real good job of keeping the numbers down so that we are able to have class with all the students at one time in attendance. So we really should give credit to the county and those members for being able to keep our numbers low at the Juvenile Detention Center so that we can provide the services that those students very, very, very so much need.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And Ms. Lewis has a question.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Ward, so are you all required to continue with instruction during the summer?
Yes, we are, we're required to, we provide, development activities throughout the summer. It's not as structured as the, classes are during the school year. They tend to focus more on character education and career development across the summer versus, reading and math. However, we do continue those courses across, but, we, reduce the amount of time we put into those and increase the amount of time we do it for character ed. It's just to give the kids a break from the academics since they do it all school year, and give them, something different during the summer.
I have a question for Dr. Brown, Madam President. Dr. Brown, those students were not face-to-face, were they?
At the JBC?
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank
Dr. Fletcher Hodges. This is Mrs. Milton. Could you just please tell me, give me, an example of what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. On a daily basis, what I do is being in each and every classroom every day. We have a schedule where we know exactly which classrooms we're going to be and exactly what we're looking for. The basis of what I do is monitoring virtual instruction, giving teachers feedback from different perspectives, making sure teachers stick to their instructional schedule. Sometimes they have a tendency to get off. Most teachers, if not all teachers, are used to a traditional setting where they can see the kids and touch the kids. So I'm constantly checking for student engagement. I look for a positive learning environment. Looking to see that teachers are indeed using that academic language that could assist with testing and student growth as far as that is concerned. Making sure and observing their common planning times while they're on their common planning times. Looking and then see that all teachers are contributing and participating as well, because all of that is mostly virtual. Because of the virtual environment, I look to see that the faculty and staff have a positive rapport with the students and the parents, because sometimes parents have a tendency to get involved in online learning to some extent. I attend parent meetings. I attend and participate in PLC meetings with the faculty and staff. I attend and participate with MTSS meetings with the tier teams to make sure students are getting those that needed tier instruction that they need, and they're placed in the proper areas. We do have learning walks, and those learning walks are conducted with the leadership coach from the Mississippi Department of Education. I participate in those as well. I collaborate with the principal, the faculty, and the staff, and this is all done to maintain a conducive virtual learning environment.
Okay, and I would like to say kudos to your staff as well. I've seen you all in action. I think your lead teacher was Ms. Streeter and Sean Pearson and your SSO. And I saw you all in engagement I think it was this school year. But I would like to say kudos to your staff. And I'm looking at number 1. And when you're speaking of number 1, is this students or is this your staff?
Okay, I don't have that right now. Can you tell me what it says?
It's your COVID-19 data.
Okay, that COVID-19 data, that consists of 6 schools.
Yeah, I'm asking, is it staff and students, or is it just students, or is it just staff?
That's faculty, staff, and students.
Okay, now, since COVID has been, can you give me what you do on a day-to-day?
Yes, ma'am. I visit the schools once, maybe 2 times a week, and what I do is make sure that each school is in COVID compliance. There's a set of guidelines that the CDC has suggested that schools follow, and the district, I make sure that all of those guidelines are being followed. Everything from social distancing to wearing a mask to hand sanitizer, ventilators in the hallways, anything that's involved with COVID and the violation of it or support of it is what I address.
Okay, and I also want to say your SSO was Booker T, and I'm sorry I didn't call his name because I couldn't think of it at the time, because I was really impressed by your staff that I saw. Any other questions, board members? No questions, board members? All right, I guess that's it. Thank
Ms.
you.
Middleton, can I say something real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
I would also like to bring to your attention, I'm not sure if you all saw where I talked about the iSelect grant. And then we have 4 schools who have received that grant. It's a grant that's gonna get us a social emotional learning curriculum for the district. Well, not for the district, but for those schools that were selected through the grant. And we currently have, I just got an email who made me ask if I could say something, but we got an additional 2 schools added to that. So you can add Davis Elementary and Greenwell High School.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. And thank the 3 of you for showing up tonight. Dr. Brown.
Next, we'll have, information regarding the district's test security plan. That begins on page 10 and ends on page 25. Dr. Cook.
Good afternoon. We have on page 10 is the, just the guidance from MDE regarding, test security plan addendum. And basically it just, states that if we have any, changes in key personnel who are listed on the test security plan or who were listed on the test security plan, when it was initially approved, then we have to make those appropriate changes to the plan, and then have the district test coordinator and the superintendent sign those plans. And if you would look on this year we have had, if you start on page 21, 22 to 24, we have had 3 addendums on this year.
You say 22, 23, 24.
Yes, ma'am. They begin on 21 also, 21. It should be 3 addendum, forms.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Dr. Brown, if I can get you to look at page 16. We didn't receive an email about your update, but I'm looking at page 16 at the bottom, and I'm looking at the alternative schools, and I was looking at those 2 staff members, so that's why I'm asking, is your plan still in compliance?
The plan is in compliance, even without the existence of the alternatives because of the pandemic, but the plan is still in compliance because we don't have an alternative school, so we wouldn't have anybody testing at those sites.
And I guess what we could do, just to make that note, we can definitely, just note that, due to COVID, staff member is, at another, school site.
Yeah, I understand you said there could be another site, but I'm looking at one who's not even in this district anymore. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm saying, I was just wondering how could our plan be in compliance if we got people on here that don't work here?
The actual, the original test security plan doesn't change. If there are changes, the DTC makes a notation of it. In the past, we would cross out a name and write in another name. If it is a school site, in the addendum, the DTC, will include those names. Now, I'm not sure what changes happened since I've been DTC, but in the past, we used to, we were advised to cross out the names of the individuals who had access to keys. Other changes, we would change those. During testing, we provide a roster to the principal, so the principal would know who would proctor and administer assessments. But we trained everybody, so anybody, whether they're included or not, everybody's trained to administer assessments. And those names will be included on the roster given to the principal and kept in a binder by the DTC.
Do you know, when this person retired
Which one?
on the alternative school?
This person retired, it was during toward the, beginning or middle of this particular year, it was when COVID happened. So the person was in place.
So are these, addendum forms, are these, is this the updating of the test security plan? Is this serve as an update?
Yes, ma'am, each addendum.
But what we'll do, we'll go back and we can just draw a line through and write the appropriate name. And I will say that particular school may have been overlooked just because those staff members are going to, are another location, but we'll make that correction.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Brown.
Next, we have, Foundation of Mid-South update. The board requested to, provide an update regarding evaluations of administrative personnel. If you look on page 28, the Foundation for the Mid-South does not evaluate principals or central office staff. This responsibility for the principals, evaluations, come from the deputy superintendent and the superintendent. The Foundation for Mid-South came into our district primarily. They provided support through Fluency Plus. And the district was able to access the leadership support free of charge from the foundation representative because of his contact with the district and the fact he was a former superintendent, offered to provide that additional coaching and leadership for our administrators. As it pertains to a report from the foundation, I have contacted Dr. Allen. I stated during the previous meeting that she has experienced a death in her family, so I'm waiting on her. But after our board meeting, I was contacted by the Casey Family Programs and Dr. Earl Watkins, who will be meeting with me and setting up a date to meet with the board. We still would want to give Dr. Ivy time so that once she reaches back out, she'll be able to meet with the board.
Madam President,
Dr.
may I ask a question?
Yes.
Dr. Brown, have we had any reports from the Fluency Plus?
Yes, ma'am, I attached them, right behind on page 29 through we have 3 reports from them, pages 29 through, the last page is 133.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President,
Dr.
may
Brown.
I ask a question?
Yes.
Dr. Brown, I still feel like it's, will be needed for us to hear from, and thank you for the correspondence.
Yes, ma'am. As soon as I hear from Dr. Ivy, but I will meet with the Casey Foundation, Dr. Watkins, and they'll set up a date where they can step in and meet with the board to give Dr. Ivy the time that she needs. But she is, once she reaches back out, we'll make the board aware of it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, and no disrespect, Dr. Brown, this board does know that it's the duty of you and Dr. Pulley to, evaluate principals and central staff, but I think, because, and I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it was something that you told us about them, having different reports, and I think that's why this board asked you to get shadows, and it was no disrespect, and we do know, that that's your job, and Dr. Pulley's job, so no offense. Dr. Brown.
Next, we have an approval to submit the Mississippi Delta Bureau Partnership Association, Dr. Cook, and that's page 134.
Gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs, GEAR Up Partnership Grant is a federal grant which will serve students and educators across the Mississippi Delta. It is a 7-year grant beginning in 6th and 7th grades in year 1. The goal of GEAR Up is to increase the number of students who enroll and succeed in post-secondary education. Target services will be developmentally appropriate, and use of these funds will go towards services on the attached pages. If awarded, the total allotment for the Greenwood-LaFleur Consolidated School District for each of the 7 years will be $117,000. And if you turn to page 139, this is a listing of all of those services and developmentally appropriate for each of those particular grade levels. You have some interventions for excessive absenteeism. You have AP and dual enrollment, increased access. So several different parent workshops. So you have several different, or many different services here that's provided. And then the good thing this year, in working with them, we are able to, even though on the form that you see on page 140, it does have non-federal fund contribution provided by partner. Because of COVID and all of the different waivers that's been allowed this year, we're able to submit the partner identification form without having, as it stands today, without having to place any of the money here for a match, because hopefully the waiver will allow us to not have to match. I spoke with the representative who's assisting us with this, and she stated that we're hoping that we don't have any match for any part of it. But if there's a decision that says, well, we won't ask for a match for year 1, 2, or 3, but maybe 4, 5, and 6, then they'll let us know. If there is a change in the match, we will bring this back to you all to inform you all of the change. But as it stands right now, we've gotten a great indication that there will not be or have to be a match.
Dr. Brown or Dr. Fuller, either one of you can answer. Is this the form of here of Mississippi that was in the form of Greenwood Public School District? Is it the same thing?
Yes.
So is it a certain amount or a limited number of students that can take part in this?
Well, it begins with students in 6th and 7th grade. So what they did was they basically took the total enrollment of students we have in 6th and 7th grades, and then what will happen is those students will be in the cohort, which will be tracked all the way through. That's kind of why the services are listed like that, and in that way that we'll be able to measure and gauge performance, measure and gauge various indicators to be able to see if this particular grant has provided positive impact for the district.
Any other question, board members?
Yes. Dr. Fuller?
Yes, ma'am.
Will someone have to be hired to make sure this program is administered, or?
No, ma'am. No,
Okay.
ma'am.
So I guess it'd be split up.
And really, like for our 6th and 7th graders, that's just a responsibility that our existing staff will just take on to be sure that that everything that goes along with the administering of the grant takes place.
Question, Madam President.
Dr.
Dr. Brown, Dr. Pulley, can you clarify if all students that enroll in the Greenwood and Florida County School District who are in 6th and 7th grade will be able to participate, or is there some type of criteria that is required other than being in 6th and 7th grade, or are there select schools that will participate?
No, sir. It's every 6th and 7th grader in our school district.
Thank you.
Yes.
Question, Madam President.
No.
Dr. Pulley, in this summary, it states to assist, to serve students and educators across the Mississippi Delta. Can you operationally define educators?
Teachers, counselors.
So how will they be public educators? I think that's my question. I see on this grid, I'm looking at that last
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. College going culture development in schools, development of college and career pipeline council in, the Delta. So basically, what it will also do is provide some professional development for our faculty and staff, so that, because as we are, now trying to definitely build that college going culture, that, in our tracking of data and all of that, just building some capacity in our people, so that we're not just receiving this money just to say, okay, we're gonna pay for certain supplies or equipment, but actually working with our staff to build that in them, so that when the grant is over, we can continue this. It can provide some sustainability in our district for those efforts.
So look at 5 and 6, are coming down. Will this help educators, go to school? Is this the way I'm reading that? Am I reading that correctly? If they wanna go back to school? Cause I see the criteria says college going culture.
No, ma'am. What it will do is to help develop that quality in our staff, so that we can push our students to go. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Brown.
The superintendent recommends school board approval to submit the partner identification form for the Mississippi Delta Bureau Partnership.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve to submit the partner ID form for the Mississippi Delta Bureau Partnership.
So moved.
It's been motioned and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Dr. Brown.
Mrs. Milton, before we go to 3.5, Ms. Johnson would like to recognize one of our individuals who made it possible for us to receive one of the donations we discussed during last board's meeting.
Yes, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the president of the Parents for Public Schools of Greenwood, LaFleur County, Mrs. Lula Moore. She was the main reason why we did receive the grant. They reached out to her at the national level. At the local level, she made sure that our district received those funds, and I just want to acknowledge her and thank her publicly.
And this board as well acknowledges Dr. Lula Moore, and we thank her for her contribution. Board members, let's give her a round of applause. Chair will entertain a motion to close this meeting for a consideration of executive session.
So moved.
It's been motioned and properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Chair will entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add job descriptions on .9. Where I get so 3.9.
So moved. Second.
It's been motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the amended agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. And strike the word accept, I meant to say approve. So now we are, consideration of executive session. Thank you, Dean, you put us back on. right, Dr. Brown, page 141, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, we're on, approval of claims docket, page 141.
Okay, we ready?
The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the payment of claims 947-864 for the Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District.
Chair entertain a motion to approve the payment of claim 947-864 for GLCSD. It's been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Dr. Brown.
Page 149, approval of the 2021-2022 district organizational chart. The superintendent recommends school board approval of the 2021-2022 organizational chart for the Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District pending necessary revisions.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the 21-22 organizational chart for GLCSD pending necessary revisions.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Dr. Brown.
Next, we have the 2021-2022 classified salary scale. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve.
Excuse me, Dr. Brown. We're on page 155.
Oh, I'm sorry, 155.
Yes, ma'am.
Approval of the personnel recommendations, I'm sorry. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the personnel for the 2020-2021 school year on the attached page. Contracts will be issued as required.
Dr. Brown, can I ask a question? Will
Yes,
this
ma'am.
be for both, for this one and the next one? Or
No, ma'am, just for 155, 156, just that one individual.
No, I'm talking about the years.
It will be for next year, we just didn't update the,
Okay.
well, I'll bring that back.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the personnel for 2020-2021 school year on attached pages. Contract will be issued as required.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Dr. Brown.
Approval of personnel recommendations, page 157. Pages 157 through 159. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the personnel for the 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages. Contracts will be issued as required.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the personnel for 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages. Contracts will be issued as required.
So moved.
Second. It's been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Let the record show. Dr. Moore, 1 nay. Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Dr. Brown. Let the record show that Ms. Milton recuses herself and Dr. Bailey will take over as soon as I exit the room.
Approval of personnel recommendations. Attached is a list of district personnel which requires board approval. Contracts will be issued as required for the 2021-2022 school year. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve personnel for the 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages. Contracts will be issued as required.
The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the personnel for the 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages. Contracts will be issued as required. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Your motion carried. Madam President?
Dr. Bailey, let me include approval for the addendum. Approval of personnel recommendations. Attaches a list of district personnel which requires board approval. This is an addendum. Contracts will be issued as required for the 2021-2022 school year. That one. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the personnel for the 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages. Contracts will be issued as required.
Board, this is the addendum. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the personnel for the 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages. Contracts will be issued as required. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried. Madam President, you may reenter.
Dr. Brown, let the record show that Dr. Kalanya Moore is recusing herself.
Page 170, approval of personnel recommendations. Attached is a list of district personnel which requires board approval. Contracts will be issued as required for the 2021-2022 school year. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the personnel for the 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages with necessary revisions. Contracts will be issued as required.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the personnel for 2021-2022 school year on the attached pages with the necessary revisions. Contracts will be issued as required. Chair will entertain a motion. So moved. The recommendation dies for a lack of a second. Jesus. Dr. Brown.
Okay. Next, we have 3.8, approval of the 2020-2021 class.
Dr. Moore, you can come back in. I see, never mind. Go ahead, Dr. Brown.
Approval of the approval of the 2021-2022 classified salary scale. The superintendent recommends school board approval of the 2021-2022 classified salary scales with the necessary revisions.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the job descriptions listed above for the 2021-2022, subject to the necessary revisions for the Greenwood-LaFleur Consolidated School District.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion is carried.
3.9, job descriptions. Approval of job descriptions. Attached are job descriptions for the positions listed below. The superintendent recommends school board approval of the job descriptions listed above for the 2021-2022 school year, subject to, with necessary revisions in the Greenwood-LaFleur Consolidated School District.
That's not what we just did.
We did the salary scale.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the job descriptions listed above for the 21-22 GLCSD school district, subject to the necessary revisions.
You want to go back to 3.8? Okay.
Chair will entertain a motion. Okay, so moved. Motion dies for a lack of a second. So what did I read the first time? Because I thought I was reading it.
I read the salary scale.
We approve, I'll make that motion for the
Okay,
seventh
but,
year.
so we did approve.
Yes.
All right, so,
Next, we have the 2021 Mass Summer Convention update, and I'll get with Ms. Flowers regarding that information for Mass. Number 6,
Dr. Bailey,
We have to wait on the recommendation from the superintendent.
approval of inventory removal. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the attached inventory removal list.
Madam President, if I may, I move that we table this.
second. Is motion and properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried.